Okay, so the next form is converting from standard form to vertex form. And so the first thing we're going to do, you see, we're going to have our A, B, and C. We have to find our vertex. So with that being said, to find our vertex, remember we do x equals negative b. I'm going to put b in parentheses over 2 parentheses a. And then we just label our a, b, and c. A is going to be in front of the x squared. So it's understood to be a 1. B is in front of the x, 16. C is 64. And so all we're going to do is just plug it in. X equals, we got a negative, and our B was 16. Our divided by 2, and we got an A of 1. And if we put that in our calculators, we would do negative, parentheses, 16, divided by 2, parentheses, well, let me clear it out. Negative, parentheses, 16. I'm going to use the N over D button. 2, parentheses, 1. Enter. And that should give us negative 8. So negative 8 is our x. So negative 8 is going to be our x. And for vertex form, it's not only going to be our x, it's also going to be your h. I always think of this comes alphabetical order. X comes before y. And then h comes before k. So this is actually is going to be our h and our k. Okay, now what we're going to do, just like before when we were identifying the vertex, is that we're going to plug in negative 8 for x in our original equation. So x squared plus 16x plus 64. And we're just going to plug in 8 for x. So we're looking at 8 squared plus 16 parentheses 8 plus 64. And then we plug that into our calculator. Parentheses 8 squared plus 16 parentheses 8 plus 64 equals 256. So we get, and oh wait a minute, and I'm sorry, I did that totally wrong. Scratch that out. Sorry, that should have been negative 8. I'm sorry. I did positive 8, so I thought it was a big number, but it's okay to get a big number. Let me redo this. So it should be parentheses negative 8 squared plus 16 parentheses negative 8 plus 64. I apologize for the last mistake. And we get 0. Okay, so we get 0 here. And so we plug in 0 here. Okay, so now the next step we're going to do, oh, wait a minute. I'm going to erase this so I can have some room. I'm going to write that 0 back. So remember, this is my x and y, but it's also my h and k. So my vertex formula tells me y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. Okay, and so all we are doing is plugging in for our a, our h, and our k. So our a is what we're going to use from over here. A was 1. So guys, I'm going to write it just for the purpose so we can see it, but you will not see 1 written there. So we have parentheses x, and our h, if you look here, this is what we had, negative 8. But remember, it's the same way. It's going to change signs, so it's going to be a positive 8 squared. And our k is going to be what it is. And you will not see a plus 0, but I'm putting it just for the purpose so you can see it. So really our answer to this problem will be y equals x plus 8 squared. That's the way you actually see it. But I was just showing you how to do it. So let's do one more problem. So I'm going to do this one, number 2, over here. Move it over. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is identify our vertex. So I like to label my A, B, and C. It kind of helps me. So A is 2, B is -4, C is -2. So our formula is x equals -b, and put parentheses, divided by 2, parentheses A. Okay, so x equals negative, and my b was -4, divided by 2, parentheses, my a was 2. So I'm going to plug that into my calculator. So if you see here, I got a negative here, parentheses, -4, close my parentheses, n over d, 2, parentheses, 2. And we get 1. So we get 1 for that answer. Then my next step is to plug it in into this equation here. So we got 2x squared minus 4x minus 2. And I'm going to plug 1 in for x. So 2 parentheses 1 squared minus 4 parentheses 1 minus 2. And then I'm going to get my calculator. And wait 1 second. So I'm going to get my calculator back up. I'm going to do 2 parentheses 1. I think it was squared minus 4 parentheses 1 minus 2. And we get -4. Okay, so this one's going to work a little bit better, so you can kind of see everything. So when I write it, I'm going to have 1 -4. That's my x and y, or another way of saying it, my h and k. So we come back to our formula. Y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. And then we're going to plug in for our a, our h, and our k. So if you look here, we had an a of 2. So y equals 2 parentheses x. And then my h was 1, but I had to change the sign. It was a positive 1. And there becomes a -1 squared. And then my k is -4. Okay, so this is my final answer. So stop the video and complete the rest of them.